Today the preparation for the lesson, together with prepared Match 16 and Match 3 attended the morning lessons. Together this week we met during the day for discussions to prepare this preparation. And actually, in truth, it's been a long time that we didn't manage to do anything. We couldn't decide on the right format of the preparation. And towards the day that we had to present the lineup for authorization, we found ourselves ending the lesson. And the day we have to turn in the lineup, we look at one another and we feel like we're at a dead end. Suddenly, we feel like the Creator gets involved as an answer to our outcry, as an answer to all the efforts we invested. And within an hour he helped us come to such a result that everyone agrees with unanimously and truly brings forth our message. We hope that the water connection has got given birth to will help us strengthen ourselves in this lesson. Yes, friends, our great teachers left for us tremendous legacy in the sources from which we can extract the most valuable gift, the light, and we think this is the most efficient way of aiming ourselves in the lesson. We tried to give a process, but besides that, let the upper one work. Let's all together enter the sources and workshop questions and allow the Creator himself to calibrate us. So during the lesson we'll come closer between us and to him as much as possible. Sahar, please. Rush. Article number 12. What a Torah and work in the way of the Creator. Prior to learning Torah, a person should examine the reason for which he is learning Torah. Now, for any act needs to have some purpose that causes him to do the act. It is as our sages said, a prayer without a name is as a body without a soul. For this reason, before he comes to learn Torah, he must prepare the intention. Again, prior to learning Torah, a person should examine the reason for which he is learning Torah. For any act needs to have some purpose that causes him to do the act. It's as our sages said, a prayer without an aim is as a body without a soul. For this reason, before he comes to learn Torah, he must prepare the intention. Question for silent workshop. What did I come to the lesson for? Thank you. Except number 2, Rabash Article 6. Confidence. Those who want to enter the path of truth to achieve adhesion must accustom themselves to make every thought, word and action have the aim to bring contentment to the Creator through the commandments that they do and the Torah in which they engage. Again, those who want to enter the path of truth to achieve adhesion must accustom themselves to make every thought, word and action have the aim to bring contentment to the Creator through the commandments that they do and the Torah in which engage. Workshop. How do we enter the path of truth? Article 15. What is the righteous become apparent through the wicked in the work, if their intention is to bring contentment to the Creator? Then if they want to increase the work, they must increase the greatness of the Creator, since to the extent of his greatness, to that extent they can annul before him, and do everything they do only for the sake of the Creator. If their intention is to bring contentment to the Creator, then if they want to increase the work, they must increase the greatness of the Creator, since to the extent of the greatness, to that extent they can annul before him and do everything they do only for the sake of the Creator. Silent workshop. How can we give the Creator contentment during the lesson? Article 15 by Rabash. What is the righteous become apparent through the wicked in the work, if their intention is to bring contentment to the Creator, and then if they want to increase the work, they must increase the greatness of the Creator, since to the extent of his greatness, to that extent they can annul before him, and do everything they do only for the sake of the Creator. Again, about Article 15. What is the righteous become apparent through the wicked in the work, if their intention is to bring contentment to the Creator? Then if they want to increase the work, they must increase the greatness of the Creator, since to the extent of his greatness, to that extent they can annoy everything they do only for the sake of the Creator. Let's ask to strengthen our faith in the greatness of the Creator. Dear friends, in the first part of the lesson, we will study a lesson from Rav, from May 20th, 2003. It's based on an article what is revealing a portion and covering 2 portions in the work. You can find it in the Rabash writings or in the study material. We'll read it together in the 10. We have 35 minutes to do so. 10 that finish. before the time is up, invited to do a workshop about the main points from the article. Article what is revealing a portion and covering two portions in the work. We should understand this matter of revealing a portion. This means that previously a portion was covered here and then one came and revealed a portion, but concealed two portions. Thus now it became more concealed than before he revealed. This means that he came and made a great concealment now than before. Would it not be better if he did not reveal the portion? We should interpret that when he comes and says, I revealed a portion and I covered two portions, he comes and tells us that there is a place of scrutiny here, meaning to examine what he revealed, since the matter should not be revealed to all, but only to those who need to know. For this reason, he had to cover two portions, so that people who have no need to know would not exert in order to understand the matters, while those who feel they are lacking this knowledge in order to complete themselves will exert in order to reveal the matter that he concealed. By this we should interpret in matters of work, which is man's engagement in Torah and commandments in order to achieve completion or wholeness, and for this man was created. We should make two discernments here. 1. The purpose of creation. The purpose of creation is for created beings to come to a state where they received the light and pleasure from the Creator. 2. The correction of creation. The correction of creation is to achieve adhesion, called equivalence of form, meaning that all their actions will be only in order to bestow contentment upon the Creator. Therefore, when there is some revelation, and a person cannot receive it in order to bestow, he blemishes it. For this reason, everything must be in concealment until a person can receive it in order to bestow. Hence, when he says, I revealed a portion, and I concealed two portions, it means that those who have no need for the matter will not exert to work and reveal, while those who do have a need, when they are told, I revealed a portion and I concealed two portions, they are willing to work until they attain the portion he revealed, since the Creator helps them. When a person gives the awakening from below, he receives help from above. It follows that he did reveal the matter to those worthy of them. Who is worthy? Those who make an effort to them. The portion they revealed is revealed to them. That is those who do not have the quality of the correction of creation, cannot receive anything from the purpose of creation, which is to do good to his creations. Yet this matter of revealing a portion and covering two portions applies also during the preparation for the work. In other words, it applies even in the beginning when a person wants to begin the work, since those who have been rewarded from above are shown some illumination that shines for them, and they begin to work with great enthusiasm and power. This is so because they receive the revelation from above, and they see that the most important thing in life in this world is spirituality and not corporality. They feel confident that soon they will be rewarded with entering the king's palace, and will be rewarded with adhesion with the Creator and the flavors and secrets of the Torah. A person who feels all this by the revelation of the portion that has been revealed to him from above. However, after some time, when it is seen above that the person has begun the work of bestow in order for him to grow on his own toward nearing the Creator, and also to feel what it is like to be remote from holiness, so he will discern the advantage of the light from within the darkness. Subsequently, a person comes into a state of covering two portions, and one cannot understand why at first. When he did not know what the work of bestow was like, spirituality illuminated for him as a revelation in his mind. He understood that after this revelation he should advance and go forward. But in the end he sees that now he's worse than before, or he began the work of bestow. A person cannot provide answers to these states, but the answer is that in order for him to begin to work and to be given from above the revelation, to give him the strength to emerge from the state he was in before he began the work, and this is called an awakening from above. Afterwards this revelation was taken from him, so that now you should be able to give the awakening from below. And this is the meaning of what this says, that on Passover night, when the Creator had to deliver the people of Israel from Egypt, a great light appeared upon them in the manner of an awakening from above. For this reason, at that time Moab illuminated, and all by the power of the awakening from above. But afterward they all fell once more to their places, meaning that afterwards the people of Israel had to work in a manner of an awakening from below in order to continue in the manner of doodloot of the Mo adulthood. Similarly, here we should interpret that when a person begins the work, he is shown a person, namely, he's shown from above some illumination, and that illumination gives him the power to serve the Creator. He begins to feel that this is the goal for which man was created in this world, and that feeling comes to him as a revelation from above in order to give him momentum for the holy work. Therefore, afterward, when a person sees that he's not advancing but regressing, and now he's even farther from the state he was in before he revealed to him a portion of the holy work, that person thinks that it is because he was thrown out from the work. Therefore, a person must know that such is the work, that in order to admit a person into the work, there is such a correction called awakening from above, which is given to a person who is capable of entering the holy work, meaning that afterward he will be able to work by an awakening from below. Says a person obtains the real vessels, specifically through the awakening from below. This is why afterward he loses the light of confidence he had in the beginning of the work. Accordingly, we should discern concerning the words revealing a portion and uncovering two portions. One in the beginning of his work is in a state of still of holiness, meaning he only acts and does not contemplate the thought. 2. He is shown a portion from above. That time he begins to feel that there is a new world. He feels that if he makes an effort, he will be rewarded with entering the king's palace and will be granted attainment of godliness. At that time he will see that his confidence is so strong that he will achieve real wholeness when he looks at other people, how they engage in Torah and commandments in still manner. He says about them that they are acting as beasts, doing without reason, and that they have no feeling of what is within the Torah and commandments. All this is built in him on the basis that he was rewarded with revealing a portion. 3. Afterward, meaning after the work, when he begins to advance in the intention, through the power of the awakening from above, he comes to a state of covering two portions. That is, he falls into a descent. And this is on purpose so that now he will give the awakening from below, since specifically from this work he receives vessels for the light. In other words, it is impossible to discern any flavors in the light before we taste the taste of darkness. As it is written, as the advantage of the light from within the darkness. This means that although anyone can tell between light and darkness, but to enjoy the light as it is possible to enjoy, this is impossible. As we see in corporality, we must believe that all this extends from spirituality as a branch and root. As we can see for ourselves, we thank God working on our legs and use our hands. Although we are glad that we are well, at that same time, we cannot rejoice over the fact that we are healthy. However, if we visit a hospital where there are patients with paralysis, some in their legs, some in their hands, if someone went in there and gave them a cure so they would regain their health and would be able to use their hands and legs, what joy would they have at being healthy? It follows that the darkness that they are suffering from not being able to use their hands and legs is the cause of their joy. This is the meaning of as the advantage of the light from within the darkness. In spirituality, the light does not only add joy to them, because we must know that in spirituality, the joy is used only to obtain the light. Put differently, the joy is addressing for the spirit of the Creator. In other words, attainment of godliness dresses in many names. And in general, this is called the light of Torah, wisdom. That is, spiritual pleasure is not merely pleasure. Rather, it is the revelation of the names of the Creator. We are awarded this through the lack called vessels and a need. This is why we need an awakening from below, for specifically by our work in Torah and commandments, we obtain those vessels called the need for the light of Torah. Therefore, a person must be careful not to be alarmed by the descents he suffers, since from this he learns how to appreciate the importance of nearing the Creator, as in the advantage of the light from within the darkness, it follows that the meaning of revealing a portion and covering two portions in the work is that we must make three discernments in the work until we achieve adhesion with the Creator. 1. When he is in a state of still of holiness working only in action, this is called one line. 2. When he's shown one portion, meaning he's shown from above his surrounding light what there is to attain in godliness. By this he gains confidence that he will achieve great attainment and understand that this is worth living for, and his life will not be like those of the rest of the people who are living aimlessly. 3. Afterwards he comes to the third state, in which is descent. This is when he is required to show an awakening from below. That state is called covering two portions. In other words, not only has the state of revelation been concealed from him, but now even the still state has been concealed from him, and it is difficult for him to engage in Torah and even in actions without the intention. It follows that now he has two covers. 1. The state of revealing the portion. 2. The state of the still, when he engaged in Torah and commandments with enthusiasm. That state has also disappeared from him. Why is all of this? Meaning, why is there a need for it to be more covered now than even in the first state called still of holiness? The answer is that it is so, that now he will not be content with less and will remain in a state of still. It follows that the whole revelation of the portion was for nothing, meaning he did not do any action of nearing the Creator. But now that he cannot do anything unless by coercion, so he must think and find ways to be able to do the holy work once more. For this reason, now he must be twice as covered. However, a person must be careful not to look down on the forced work. Although, during the coercion, the body finds no taste in this work, we can learn about the importance of work in coercion from what we understand and see in the way the world behaves in corporeal matters. Let us take eating for example, which is something that applies to both grown-ups and children. There is love in this and there is fear, meaning fear of punishment. We see that there are little children who do not want to eat. What do the parents do? Sometimes the parents tell the children nice stories to make the children eat. Because the children want to hear nice stories, they eat. And sometimes when the parents have no patience, they hit the children to make them eat. And sometimes when a person has no appetite, he forces himself to eat also because of fear, since he's afraid that if he does not eat for several days he will grow weak, and if he does not eat for a long time, he might even die. It follows that he is eating by caution, out of fear. No one will say that it is not good that he is eating by caution, although it would certainly be better if he ate from love, but it is good if he can at least eat by caution. However, sometimes a healthy man must eat later for some reason. In that state he eats with love. It is so much so that sometimes he regrets that when he begins to eat the love departs from him. In other words, to the extent that he begins to eat, after every bite he eats, the love for eating wanes in him because the satiation drives out the love of eating. Still, it is clear to all that a person must eat whether from love or from fear. The same applies to the work of the Creator in the things a person does. When he observes Torah and commandments, there's also the matter of love and fear. That is sometimes he enjoys engaging in Torah and commandments and is high-spirited, and the reasons don't matter. This means that a person has a good mood from observing Torah and commandments, since by this he will later be rewarded, called not for his sake or another reason, meaning he is happy that he is serving the king. We should separate the reasons from the actions. In other words, we take into consideration what a person feels, and not the reason that caused him the feeling. That is the fact that a person is happy, is regarded as working from love. That is, he is happy because he will later be rewarded, or because he is serving the king. But first of all he is happy. This is called working from love. Sometimes a person works out of fear. That is, he is afraid that he will suffer punishments in this world, or that he will suffer punishments in the next world. At that time a person is not happy with this, since he does everything by coercion. Coercion means that a person would be happier if this did not exist, and he would not be punished for it. We therefore see that the actions work on the body in corporality, even when we do them out of fear, meaning compulsively. We should learn from this and believe that so it is in the work as well, meaning even by caution. This means that even when a person does not find any flavor in Torah and prayer, he should do this by coercion, because the act does its thing, as in the corporeal act. When he acts compulsively, it follows whether for better or for worse. Even when he works out of coin, so it is in the work. Even though he observed Torah and commandments by caution, it works within the person. However, there is a certain difference in the work whether he does it from love or from fear. Yet, we should know that even in work, he does not out of love. There is a difference between working from love and saying the Creator needs me to observe Torah and commandments. But I have no need that I can say that I'm observing the Torah and commandments for myself. He says that he does not see for what purpose he must observe them, since he says, what will it give me if I observe Torah and commandments? However, a person believes in the reward he will receive for this, and this is why he observes Torah and commandments. This follows the rule that the one who needs to be given something for his needs should pay. Therefore, he works from love because the Creator will certainly pay him for his work. But if a person observes Torah and commandments because the Torah and commandments will correct him, meaning that he feels that he needs correction, this is as our sages said, the Creator said, I've created the evil inclination. I've created the Torah as a spice. It follows that one should observe Torah and commandments for oneself. He certainly cannot ask the Creator to pay him for observing Torah and commandments, since he's not observing Torah and commandments in order to benefit the Creator. Since the Creator does not need the lower ones to observe Torah and commandments for the Creator, rather this is for the sake of men. He follows that he's working out of love, for by this he will be a complete person, a corrected person. In that case, it cannot be said that the Creator should reward him for his work in observing Torah and commandments. Follows that his observing of down out of love is not because he will later be rewarded. Rather, he thanks and praises the Creator for giving him a cure to correct the body. As in corporality, one who gives someone a cure, the recipient of the medicine pays the doctor, and the doctor does not pay the patient for taking the medicine. However, we should ask, what evil is there in men that should be corrected by observing Torah and commandments? Meaning that without Torah and commandments, he will remain with his evil and will suffer. Otherwise, why should he mind if he remains with the bad within him? This means that he must remove the bad in him, or he will suffer from the bad and will not be able to live in the world and will have to die. But through the merit of Torah and commandments, the evil will depart from him and will have a good life and peace at home. The answer is the will to receive with which man was created. This desire cares for its own benefit and has no feeling or perception for the benefit of others. A person can understand working for the sake of others only when the will to receive for his own sake gains from this. This is called bestowing in order to receive. For this reason, people go to work, Jews for Gentiles and Gentiles for Jews, all according to the reward that the will to receive for himself will receive. But actually for the sake of others, a person has no feeling that there can be such a thing. In reality, person can only believe that there is such a thing as working for the sake of others. But we should ask why indeed should one work for the sake of others? To this comes the answer, that there is a matter of the purpose of creation and the correction of creation. The purpose of creation is that his desire is to do good to his creations, meaning for the created beings to receive delight and pleasure. Hence the general name of the Creator is the good, who does good. However, there was a correction, so there would be no shame while receiving that good. That person must receive in order to bestow. And since man was created with a nature of reception and not with a nature of bestow, he must correct himself so as to be able to work in order to bestow. Before he has this desire, he is left bare and destitute, due to the disparity of form between the Creator and the created beings. This is called evil, meaning the will to receive for himself. If he does not correct it to work in order to bestow, he will remain in the dark. For this reason, a person must observe Torah and commandments in order to correct his evil and acquire a second nature which is in order to bestow. It follows that a person observes Torah and commandments for his own sake, that is by observing Torah and commandments, which is the spice he will achieve the purpose of creation, which is to do good to his created beings. By this, man will be rewarded with peace at home. Home is man's heart, as it is written in the Psalm, which says a handsome abode in his heart is his heart. Again, as it is written in the Zohar, which says a handsome abode is in the heart his heart. Man's heart is not at peace with the Creator, since he has complaints to the Creator that he is not satisfying all his wishes, but the reason is disparity of form. Therefore, when a person corrects himself in order to bestow, he receives the delight and pleasure from the Creator, and then peace is made. This is called peace at home. Foreign. He writes that a person has to be careful not to disregard the work in Korean, although during Korean the body does not find any meaning in the work, so we have to work in Korean, or we should not work in Korean. There's a very strong example though. When he wants a child to eat, they tell him all kinds of stories, so the child hears the story and eats. But if the parents aren't so patient, they beat him up so that he will eat. The child needs to eat, otherwise he'll die. It's very possible that it's similar to how we're related to, and in order to eat properly. We'll go to a lesson from December 25th, 2002. What is revealing a portion and covering? 2 in the work from the Runnels from the stages of the letter. There's Korean in our actions, fear and love, and we need to reach to the best possible thing. The best thing is if the created being is the desire to receive. So no matter how we turn it, the best for me will be for him to receive, and for him to receive precisely the same thing by which the desire to receive was created for. If my desire to receive was created by 200 grams of water, if I fill it with 200 grams of water, I'll feel good. This is considered that I fill myself with my purpose of creation, the purpose of creation of my desire to receive. How could it be that the purpose of creation is to come to adhesion with the Creator and to bestow, and with that we come to reception? It's very simple. By coming to equivalence of forms, I don't come to bestowing to the Creator. I come to the status of the Creator, and the status of the Creator is to do good to his created beings. So I come to a state in which I do good to his created beings. And who was created? I was created. So I come to a state where I fill myself. That is, the biggest desire to receive fills itself in a state in the most perfect whole state, specifically by reaching the status of the Creator, because that's its entire role, and I equalize with him in this role. Yes, that we don't quite grasp. But this is what happens. What the Creator wants without the bread of shame. Come to my state, and then you will fill yourself in wholeness. And on the way to this, when I reach this highest state in which I fill myself, and to do good to his created beings, on the way to this, there's the correction of the vessels. From me working in necessities, to working due to fear, and to already working due to love. This is considered the correction of the home, or the home peace. We gradually reach the peace at home, the house. The home is called the heart of a person, and when a person completes his path, then all the dwellers that in the home are in peace and calm. And in order to reveal to a person each time how to make the steps towards this exalted state, in which he will reach the purpose of creation, to do good to his created beings. And the Creator does this by revealing a little and covering a little. Revealing a little and covering a little. What does this mean? He reveals to a person how to advance, and a person advances in one side, and he opens for him a double deficiency than he had before, meaning he covers 2 portions. But when he covers the portions he's already covering, it's considered revealing a greater deficiency. That's called the covering of 2 portions, at which point a person feels that once more he's standing before a great work, a greater void than before, and once more fills it, corrects it, and fills it, acquires it, which is considered making one step by the Creator revealing this portion to him. And once more the Creator reveals a even greater deficiency, double the one he had before. That's how it is. And through such steps a person reaches a state of the purpose of creation. Are there any questions? What does it mean that he writes on page 2 below that they revealed to him, and then they took from him this revelation? The fact that a person is disclosed to, and then it's taken away from him this revelation. It's not that they're taking it back. There is no such thing, only simply that the great degree which now comes in its posterior conceals the previous degree that already entered revelation. We need to understand that the thing that has been realized, there's no longer a need for it. We need to move onwards already, and this we can also see in our lives by me filling myself now with food or with some kind of animalistic pleasure. Do I come down from this? Almost immediately I begin to long for something else. Yes, another kind of pleasure doesn't matter. But immediately, therefore, it's impossible to remain till the final correction in a state in which he can exist more than that which he is doing or executing, but rather the moment it's performed at that second, as if there's a moment. There's no time in spirituality, only in corporality there's none, only we just don't understand yet. It's still in our subconscious because the laws are similar laws or equal laws. So I immediately search for another pleasure because the desire to receive that was filled will no longer feel the pleasure. It's already needing something. That's why the path itself is it's non-stop. It's endless. There are no stops along the way. There's nothing that stands in its place, and not that it returns or goes back, but rather it must continue. We just don't feel this movement, this non-stop movement. This depends on the extent of our participation in this movement and the measure in which we want to participate in it or hasten it. Then we begin to become cautious and sensitive to the smallest movements. Whereas if I don't want the movement, then I kind of try to not feel it. I try for my senses to be more kind of blunt, for them not to feel the change. A person wants to sleep, even to die, just not to feel what he doesn't want. This is why the transition from enslavement, from necessity, from having no choice, from koan as we call it, to the desire, or a desire due to fear, or a desire even from the aspect of love. It opens for a person additional vessels, at which point he enters into the pace of advancement, meaning this pace of his advancement does not depend on how much more I will learn or how many more things I will do, but rather to what extent I will want this process itself more, and I'll be more sensitive to every small change if I want that process, and then if I assist it, I will actually hasten it myself. There are very delicate and refined matters here that gradually get clarified during the work, not through the guidance in spirituality, or it's not like a guidance of something I said and someone can do it. This guidance is in how we nevertheless let the upper one understand what we are told, and understanding. When we understand it with our heart. The heart understands not with our intellect. And when the heart understands, it knows how to do what it needs to do. My participation with my mind here is very small. Let's put it this way. Your intellect, your mind gets you to your externality to understand or feel what the heart is already performing. And the heart executes without asking the intellect. So the light that operates through the study, through the work in the group, the light which operates on the heart itself, on the point in the heart, directly. And when the heart changes and performs actions or participates in actions, it is already giving this knowledge to the mind, at which point you understand what the heart is doing. You don't have from the intellect to the heart. There's no possibility to supervise this or control this. Where desire proceeds and the intellect is secondary, you can only from the side of the intellect to coerce yourself to do all kinds of actions that will invite the upper light to operate more on the heart that the mind intellect is capable of doing. That's why we were given it, otherwise we don't need it. The desire to receive was created. The intellect, which is besides the desire to receive, operates according to the development of the desire to receive. Only for that, the intellect is needed only to draw the upper light, only in order to compel us to work with the society, meaning that our intellect that we need to have there where we already have our desire to receive and doesn't tell us that it's worthwhile doesn't tell us to perform it already, meaning to proceed some action that is taking place in the heart. With the intellect, we can do only one thing to draw the upper light upon us to the heart. There's no other action with which we can perform. The mechanism is very simple. Heart before the upper light. The upper light operates on the heart of a person and constantly changes him, advances him more and more towards the final correction throughout thousands of years. I have besides my heart an intellect, and with this intellect, you can cause the upper light to not draw. There's no drawing anymore, but rather, through the intellect you can cause the upper light to operate upon the heart in a more efficient way. That's when you receive the desire from the society, when you somehow course yourself through the society, through an external desire which you acquire from friends, to be more sensitive to the light. The light does not change. You can put the desire in your heart from the group, and this is through the intellect. The only action that remains for us only that. Okay, he talks about 3 aspects of the work until you reach adhesion with the Creator. So he says, 1. The state of still of holiness, meaning he only acts in still of sanctity, and it's called one line. So what is one line? The second question, when you come to the 3rd state, he writes that state of revelation is concealed from him, but it's concealed also the state of still, meaning so what is that thing that from still of sanctity is one line, and what is that in the 3rd state? It's covered now, the still state. We have work, we're all in the world, and like it or not, we're all also not for this world. We are Creator's workers. What is the Creator's workers? His desire to receive performs commandments from the light. If he wants it or doesn't want it, he has no choice. He was created this way, who's impressed by it this way, and performs all that are being operated upon. Yes, so we're all, desiring or not desiring, we're servants of the Creator, which means that we do His will. We do His will, coercively or not knowing either, subconsciously when we do it this way. We have no choice, or because of fear or because of love. There are several degrees here. Some of these states are subconsciously, where you don't feel them, and some of these states we already are somewhat in some degree of consciousness or complete consciousness. Performing these actions from love where, even if I didn't need it, or want, I had no results from it. Yes, but rather only because there's someone who wants it, his desire, not mine. Those that are still outside the awareness of their actions, their spiritual actions, are divided into 2 parts. Those are like inanimate, vegetative, and animal life according to the laws of nature. This includes all the human beings in the world, besides the people who observe Chua and commandments on the degree of inanimate, of holiness. Those who observe Torah and commandments, and still of holiness, observe it, because this is what the Creator commands, and they understand that this is what He commanded, so they observe them for all kinds of reasons. But this is actually considered in one line, only in one line below a reason, meaning they don't check, they don't operate their desire to receive, they have no negation factor, they only go by the commandment, the command the Creator commanded. I observe due to fear, due to love, doesn't matter. Yes, this is due to education. There's also in this, in every state we have, all of its includes in integrated parts. Every state, if it's got 10 spirit and spirituality, then also incorporate as all this the entire seemingly sum of all the states. And there are those who through the personal work towards the Creator, begin to feel their nature against the nature of the Creator. Then a person's nature is felt as the left line and the nature of the Creator as the right line. And despite this seemingly clash here, they go and execute these states, perform the commandment of the Creator. And this is called the middle line above reason. That is, no matter what they do, what they feel, the right line is the desire of the Creator. So they also reach with one line to the middle line. So these observe, and those observe these before checking and before the struggle and the correction, and those after the examination and correction. That's the difference. Either this way you're working, not from your desire, or you're working willingly. What does it mean from your willing? That you're willingly you corrected your desire in accordance with His desire. So what does it mean that you come to the third state, which is descent? So, it's not enough that the state of revelation is concealed from him, but also the inanimate state is concealed from him. What does it mean? That it disappears. If a person, where is this written? It's written in where it says from that state. It's written there in number 3. Then he comes to the third state, which is a matter of descent, where it is wanted for him to reveal the awakening from below. This state is called covering 2 portions, meaning it's not enough that the state of revelation has been covered for him, but rather now also the state of still has been concealed from him, meaning now it's hard for him to engage, endure, and commandments even in the actions without intention. Well, I interpreted the covering of 2 portions a little differently. I interpreted it as the covering of portions that he has now a revelation of the desire to receive in a higher degree. But here, he's putting it this way, that a person who reaches a certain state, if a person rises from still of holiness, a Jew who observes due and commandments, and he starts to ascend higher than that, when 2 lines are revealed to him, and he starts to work in 2 lines, and he seemingly reaches the implementation of the middle line, and in the middle line he needs to advance. So again, he needs to advance in the middle line above reason, meaning he had 1 line, then upon this line he built 2 lines. Yes, he started to come out of the still of holiness. There's 2 states, this and the struggle between them in order to build the middle line even higher than them. And when he built the middle line to the smallest extent, now he needs to rise onwards, and so he ascends onwards. He cancels the still of holiness, the line that's below reason, in order to move to the above reason. He cancels it, and then those people feel that they don't have any taste in observing Torah and commandments even on still of holiness. And from this they're very afraid, and they're right. And I truly have a few students who are orthodox, who claim that really they have no longer a desire to observe any of that. They feel that from advancing in spirituality, a falls, and there's no taste and no forces to observe this. And this is given on purposes where he says this, that now it's hard for him to engage in Torah and commandments even in the action without intention. This is natural, and we feel this on ourselves. Although we had no rights in the observing of 10 commandments on still of holiness, but also these things fall in importance. And this is so that we will build a middle line above reason. So they have to do with, this is called the covering of 2 portions. So they have to do with the preparation. What do we need to do? Read onwards and you'll see what needs to be done. Actually, a person needs to nevertheless hold himself in a framework, and to try and build himself in such a way that his beast, his still of holiness, will remain nevertheless in some state that if he falls to still of holiness, otherwise he can fall suddenly, who knows where. It's not terrible. He won't fall too far, but his time, the time to return to the path, he can shorten, meaning it's worthwhile to be in a society that will obligate you to perform corporal actions as still of holiness. It won't obligate in a way that we're truly obligated on the outside, where you're truly coerced, and it may be starts, but this nevertheless needs to be in the form, in a conscious form, where it's worthwhile for us to perform this in order to not run away too far from the path and save time. This keeps him kind of. The religious education is what Kabbalists did. Not some fanatic person came from nowhere and said, let's do something. Kabbalists established the matter of observing Torah and commandments within the framework of this world. Has nothing to do with spirituality, but it's in order to maintain the framework and bring a person in such a way to a state where the point in the heart will erupt in him and he can continue. It's a justified state. Otherwise, where would you find people today? I don't know where, and it's not important. So, you wouldn't find them, let's say, as the nation of Israel, undoubtedly. But when a person begins to work, this framework reminds him of the inner observance. You need to start to make a blessing of something, right? So you make this blessing because you were taught like this way from early age, or you simply have to do it because society obligates you. But for you, this act reminds you that there's truly the existence of the same thing but only spiritually, meaning you can't say that the still state is cancelled. Everything comes from the still state. It's written, and those who advance in spirituality, they must establish a framework as much as possible, because if you run away too far, you may remember about this only after a few years, as we say that through the society we can add the will to receive. Right, we could be impressed by society, add to our will to receive, and then the light that comes to us will influence us more according to our will to receive. So we realize it here. Same thing here. We built the society in such a way that won't let us run away too much. That's the reason for the dissemination factory and all those things here, right? Although this is on the still level, right, it's a bit more than the still level, because the work here, I'm not simply making boxes here. I do things that advance the dissemination of Kabbalah to the masses. But nevertheless, for me, relative to me, it's a still state. But this still state nevertheless returns me to the reason for which I'm doing everything, and what am I, and so on so forth, meaning this framework is a must, and it's somehow this framework covers our flaws in observing Torah and commandments on the still level that people are not so orthodox about it. Let's say, what is it? There's no connection. Let's say I put my head into such a thought that it's against the commandments and it's some against some work of the screen, and it's called the corresponding to the corporal, the phylacteries. There's also work with inner work with spiritual factories, right? So what are you asking? You said, but what does it have to do the wearing of the corporeal factories with the spiritual factories? And what if a person has no body before he was born or after he dies, right? When he's rid of that beastly body, so he cannot wear the facting. This is the adulthood. The greatness of, if you're included in this state of greatness, means that you're wearing fillets. You corrected your left side, right, your blunt side, the weak hand that needs correction. You have two lines to that extent that you have the light that comes out in the phylacteries of the row of the head, and specifically in the connection from the back. All those things are symbols, signs for a very exalted spiritual state, and keeping one and keeping the other, there's seemingly no connection between them. Although, I'll tell you, for example, Rabash, during the time of the baking of the Passover matzah 1 year, he came down with the phylacteries, the last year, before he departed, and nobody saw it, but I saw it, and I corrected something there. I was working on something. He didn't want to see it, want others to see it. He covered it, but he did it, and there were a few things, especially that he was extremely meticulous about, meaning because we don't understand the connection between spirituality and correctity, or the importance of one or the other, we can't simply erase things. You have to believe that all of creation is a single creation. All of its parts are connected to one another, and there's no such thing where one thing is simply revoked or redundant. It's simply because of our small state that we say it this way. On the other hand, you see that it's clear to us that one who ascends to a higher degree, this ascent is felt in him as a descent, because he enters only to the upper degree. So, both the spiritual observance and the choral observance drop in importance. He's in a descent in both, and then he can't even do the actions of the still level of holiness. And that's what I hear the complaints from my orthodox religious friends. It's like that, and it's hard to explain to them otherwise that you have to do it, and all that, because the person can't do it. He can barely keep himself. So you have to accelerate the state. Either eliminate it completely, that not touch it, let him fall to the still level of holiness and let him stay there, or to create all kind of supporters that will help him go through the time of weakness, and will enter state. But for him the corporeal observance and the spiritual observance, or corporal existence and spiritual existence, will not be a problem any longer. Last question. For these actions to have more validity, these physical actions that we do, can we aim towards something that when we're doing them, so it'll be more when I do a corporeal action, Torah and commandments, if I add the intentions Does it help me in the spiritual Torah commandments? More than that, what to think about, what to aim towards to. With the corporeal Torah and commandments have nothing to think about, because it's corporeal. If you think and you can add the intention to it, that's already a spiritual action. The intention is the action, and in truth, it's not connected to the corporeal observance. So what, let's say just like that, the marker, the sure, the just put them, and that's it. The marker, the prayer, the phylacteries, just to put it, and that's it. That's what you have to do. It doesn't matter in your state, in your desire, is you right as you feel like it, or you don't, still is still. It doesn't change what is still level. There's no change in it, doesn't it? Doesn't show any change if you rise it to the vegetative degree and the animate degree, you begin to change. But these changes, you have to ensure that they will not influence the still level, although they do influence. You see what he writes here. There's no way around it because the upper degree controls the lower degree, but nevertheless, we have to maintain the framework. So I don't trust you to build yourself correctly on the level of still, level of holiness, and that you will maintain this framework also by observing Torah and commandments in action, and then the body. So we build also the factory, the dissemination factory, because it helps us more. It's more beneficial. Your actions are for the benefit of the society, the collective, and they're also done in society. They're not in isolation like the observing of Torah and commandments on the corporeal level. And all those things work a bit more, but you have to try in both things and understand that if you relate to these actions as actions that help you in spirituality, you already raise them to a spiritual degree. It's already support for your spiritual path. It's something else. Yeah, soon there will be a question. Listen, we're told here that a person's home is the heart, and we need to come to peace at home. And it's like our home is called man's heart. Man's heart is full of all kinds of desires, right? How many desires in the heart? Millions. No, not millions. 600,000. Why millions? It's enough for us. Is that enough for you? 600,000. That's it. That's what we have in the heart. One of them. There's a point in the heart. It's not even one of them. It's simply, it's an intention. It's not a desire. The point in the heart, more correctly, is the intention. So in order for you to have peace at home, you have to correct the desires in your heart, so they will all have a single intention. Each desire is different than the other, and one desire doesn't understand the other. If I wish to drink, or I wish to eat or sleep or hike, I wish to run or sit, each desire is individual, unique. How can they be together? Also, I can't correct them together, so they'll all be together. So they'll work together simultaneously if they are in a single direction, where I use each and every desire with the intention to bestow to the Creator. I don't need to use them all at once simultaneously. It's impossible, because the sum of the actions contradict each other in spirituality. It's not like that, but we'll see it there. The right and the left and all those things, they unite in one action as the organs of one body. But, however it is, I need to aim the way I use them toward one source. And then there will be peace at home between them. Meaning there cannot be peace at home unless it's a man and a woman, and there's between them and the Creator between them. Then there'll be peace in the household, not before that. That's why today you see what's happening with family. There's no family anymore. Everybody is getting a divorce very easily. The kids are not important. The kids are there or here. It's not important. The one lives with a woman and her kids from her ex, and he, himself with his kids. He goes to the other woman's kids. You'll see if another generation will get into such times where everybody will be like this. Meaning you cannot even create this glue on the corporeal level unless we introduce here the obligatory force, the love that has to be through the third force, through the Creator and spirituality. It's impossible. Between right and left, how can you create a tension between them? Only if they have the same intention toward the same goal. They remain in opposite desires the right, and the left the intention singular intention unites them, meaning in action in the direction of the one. That's how it should be also. Peace in the world in general right. He writes about it in Peace in the World. There cannot be such a thing because each one from the get-go is born with different thoughts, different qualities. And you can't simply make one person similar to the other only. If we have one something, one person, someone toward whom we aim ourselves. What are you asking? Our task is in the heart. We learn according to our feeling. We say that to work according to the mind. How can we do that? If we work according to the mind, we're like a robot programming us, like a computer or something. It can't work according to the feeling, because only the beast works according to the feeling. You can't work only to the mind, because the mind is a robot and dummy. Right, but to work with the mind for the sake of the feeling, to increase the feeling and its intentions toward the goal, that's the role of the mind, of the intellect, and for that we were giving the intellect for that only in us. In humans there's mind and feelings, and besides that, the mind and the feeling that can be in opposition. Can a beast harm itself? No, per men I'm going to harm myself. In what way? If I'm a beast I'm also not possible. I make a calculation. Even if I'm going to die, I make a calculation that it's worthwhile to die. But I'm making a calculation that I have to do the first restriction, to go through the barrier to acquire something in order to bestow. I can't even think about it. A beast is not able to do it because it goes against its nature. And there's certainly, this is talking about true peace in the household, peace at home in short. Well, ask, I want to get into it. How many times you work according to your emotions and not your mind? Let's say about your children. Or how many times do I act according to the feeling and not the mind? All the time, as long as I don't use my mind, my intellect, to raise my sensitivity toward the upper light. Only this action is done according to the mind. All the rest of my actions are according to the feeling. The feeling determines what has to be in the mind. Meaning you're asking the following: when can I precede the mind before the feeling? Right, that means for us to be Adam, man, a woman, but the feeling is the mind is a man, mind is a dummy. When I make my own action in my mind, when I want to selectively, critically to work on the feeling, that's the work of men, because a beast works according to the feeling. A person who can have oversight over his feeling with the mind to grow it with a certain direction, certain action, certain bestow. This is called the work of men. Then the work of men can be only toward the upper light. But it's written, love with all your heart. That's the first thing. Love the Lord, you God, with all your heart. That's the first, that's the last, that's the end of correction. What do you mean here, Israel? The Lord is our God. The Lord is one. That's the end of all the degrees. That's the goal you have to reach. And later it's the interpretation you want to learn. We can learn according to the sower what is here. Oh, Israel, it's not work. It's determining the final state to which we come, and it includes everything. And he explains to us both about the vessel and the fulfillment on the degree of the end of the path, the end of correction. Now can we do this? Now, the commandment of love is the last commandment after the 613 commandments. You have the commandment of love, that we corrected all the vessels. What are you asking? I don't get it. So why didn't they start with that? Are you asking why in the morning? The dawn, very dawn you start with? Yeah, that should be first. You know how long it takes to pray that? Well, the way you pray, you'll tell yourself. I'm not going to check it. I'm not going to probe in your prayer. Show as the saying goes. But that's how it is. It's written with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your essence. We will learn again part 12 in test. And you'll see why you have to say here, O Israel, and when why in the morning, yes. And then in the evening, yes. In the evening is a correction ahead of the night. In the morning is a correction in the transition from night to day. What corrections you have there? I have nothing to add. Do you wish to find your answers to what you observe is still level of holiness? There are no answers there. I can raise questions for each and every word. I in my character I work according to my emotions. And now if you poke me, I will jump right away. So, the mind is just a result of the emotion, and it's given to the person, this external intellect, in accord with how much he can truly work to increase the emotion towards the upper light. If a person doesn't amplify his emotion towards the upper light, he stays with his beastly mind, just as everyone else take the professors and see how shallow they are, dumb they are. They're experts in only that aspect that they studied. If a person tries to increase his emotion towards the light that reforms, then the mind truly begins to work. But also it's the mind that goes toward the light. It's not going to work to get you to know some more nonsense of this world. All right, but in truth, we're using 2% of our mind. We read in the Bible that there are things like fear in the work and also written about shame. So what is the result of shame or spiritual fear? What's the fulfillment of shame? What's the fulfillment of fear? What are these things? Shame is a feeling that is present in special lofty souls that truly feel themselves facing the Creator. Fear is something that happens in anyone either beastly or spiritually. Like he writes in the Zoh, either you have fear of losing incorporeality in your vessels of the will to receive your corporeal desires that you're not filling, or you're not filling your spiritual desires. So fear of this world or fear of the next world, lack of fulfillment, and fear might already be towards the Creator. Am I fulfilling him, not myself, in fulfillments of this world or the next world? Rather, am I fulfilling him? Then you already made that inversion. You've transformed. You're already thinking of him, not yourself here. Thinking about what exists in him, and his desire is his desire becoming fulfilled through your actions. That too is fear. But this is a different fear. This is the fear of Bina. She wants to give, she wants to bestow. Then comes love. When you're receiving in order to bestow. Now, in all those degrees, there are many parts, many segments and steps. What are you asking? What is the reason? And what is the result? What do you mean, what's the reason? What's the result? What comes first? Shame or spiritual fear? Shame comes from feeling the status of the Creator opposite your status. From comparing these two states, the result that arises is shame, meaning you no longer just have a feeling of myself, how much I want, how much I'm fulfilled, who fulfills me, and so forth. You already have rather the sensation of the Creator. Who is he? His desire, his attitude to me. So from comparing his attitude to me and my attitude to him comes the shame. If you're talking about this type of shame, there's a different type of shame. The shame where you tell the Creator, be ashamed. Maybe you are afraid of saying that so you don't be or not damaged. But the heart says it when you're not happy. Your heart says that every second, any second you're not happy about life. Look at your friend, see that each one is crying to the Creator this way because no one's happy from what he receives from him. And by that you already judge him to the scale of the merit. Each and every action divides into several stages. The stage that truly determines that I will perform the action. That stage is called recognizing the necessity, the urgency. That's what we need to achieve, urgency. That's without the help from the friends. And that's in order to receive, I need help from them. Without them I cannot attain the goal, meaning I work as a receiver towards them, even a cruel one. I want to use them, how to put it, to exploit them. But at least that right from here comes the attitude to them that they're important to me. I have no choice. I need them. Why aren't they working? Why aren't they influencing me? Why aren't they impacting me properly other than them? And the Creator, there's no one to influence me. The Creator is not going to do more. They have to do. Why aren't they doing? So then I start thinking, how will I influence them? So they influence me, and if I want to influence them, if I want them to influence me with greater desire and awakening towards spirituality, I myself have to put that into them and aim them like that to influence me in return. So everything depends on the necessity. Now, how will I awaken to these things? So again, it's group work where we decide. That's also why we have the RAF and the books. That's where we get the beginning from. Some initial push, and for that we have to start working, is each one of the 600 desires of the soul that is in my art. Each has a special name. Yes, it has a special name. That's really, it's a number of souls. Here we have the portion of Deuteronomy, right? There, Exodus. Yeah, when we begin to see then the names of the children of Israel right before that? We don't know. It's some sort of a people, not even a people. It's a nation from a nation. So when do you begin to feel the names, which is 600,000, right? There were 600,000 men. So that begins to be felt when they leave Egypt. That's exactly the weekly portion. So one's asking from Israel. You begin to feel them, and their names, not before that. What is in spirituality? What is children from another husband? That don't want to get into that, but there's a correction in everything. What can you do? That will be revealed later. Each and everything has a justified reason. We just have to see the state and keep moving forward with it to the right direction. Let's share impressions from the lesson and what we're taking for realization in the 10. Said that the development is with no stops as much as we agree to that, to be with it. Let's say this, we don't always agree to be with it. We want to sleep or even die. Yes, all of development really happens according to the vessels, according to man's awakening. But there's a solution also. He said that if a person doesn't have the right vessels, he can draw them from the society to acquire the desires or the commitment of the society and put it into himself that allows him to advance. And we have coarseness, love and fear. And what I'm taking towards the 10 is that if I do good to the created beings, so I perform the Creator's actions. Rav tells us something very surprising. Rav reveals to us that what most people don't know. Rav said the heart understands, and not the mind. And when the heart understands, it acts. It knows how to act. And the participation of the intellect here is minimal. The intellect only lets you understand what the heart is already doing. And the heart is doing without asking the mind. Excellent. Just like said, the mind comes to serve the desire. You have no control in the desire, unless I put my mind in between other people's minds and they influence me. If somebody says something, the society says something, so it affects my desire. Gradually, the more we incorporate from each other's desires, there's so many things in the article, and there's so many things that I've said that it's a whole world here. Rather emphasize that man's progress. In man's progress, the Creator reveals a portion and covers two, and essentially the desire always being increased for us. That's the cover. And by these steps we keep advancing towards the purpose of creation. And what's most important is how much we participate in the process, how much we want this movement of the Creator, how He's pushing us, leading us forward. We want to participate on our own, and we want to be more and more sensitive to what we're going through, and we advance faster. Our goal is to be filled in benefiting the created beings just as the Creator does. We do that through the correction. Like we heard coarse and love and fear, and we reveal one layer and then cover two. So, in order for us not to just stay with what we have, so that's how they increase our deficiency. So again, we want to reveal a bit. So for that we do work from the awakening from below. And the emotion is what controls and determines. The mind is what works in order to fill the mind. We just have that ability to take that mind and use it in order to increase our emotion for the benefit of drawing the light. That reforms. The heart will be sensitive to the light. That rises to the level of the Creator, similar to the Creator, and that will give him life. There was a nice thing about a final correction of a person is that he reaches the state of the Creator, which is to do good to the created beings. So the question is, who are those created beings that you are doing good towards? So said, that is man. Adam himself, that by benefiting himself, he bestows to the Creator. Ultimately, I understood that revelation and concealment is all to build the Kli, the vessel for that. That's all that we receive through our environment. If he was rewarded and he was given a thought to engage in the secrets of the Torah, even though he doesn't understand what's written there, it is still a great reward. That he is adhered to the internality of the Torah during the studies, that he believes that we're only engaging in godliness, and he has place to go deep into his thoughts that everything I'm learning are holy names. So it is a great reward which I was received. So I have nothing to do just to give gratitude and praise the Creator. Yes, friends, it's a great reward to cling to the internality of the statue, and that's what's in front of us. We're going to start the journey together with Rabash in the world of desires and lights and connect our hearts and follow him, because by that we connect the roots of the actions and definitions that we later also find in Rabash's articles, but just in a different language closer to us. But in the test lesson 2, Rabash communicates in a very emotional way, hinting the picture of the world that he's in, that he acts in, that he feels, and he invites us to be together with him. And how he does it is 2 questions and answers, where he raises questions and answers himself and uses his intonations, and just trying to let us taste the grace of holiness that he feels. And we just need to make the effort to be his partners, and in our common feeling, we need to make efforts, because in these lessons, we can feel what richness we can have in our feelings with our relation to the upper one. There's no greater sensitivity than that. There's a very precise language for that, and that all of our effort is just to hold on to this thought of our teacher, that our teacher also gave us this opportunity to hear these lessons of the La'ash, that we can really feel it, the richness of the feeling that a person can have with his attitude towards the upper one. Ash is a perfect example for that. I really recommend everything we need to just take care of is where our thoughts are during the lesson, that we can help each other. So a practical piece of advice is to hear the lesson while seeing the text before our eyes. We have transcripts, and then we can even hold on to the thought together and feel responsibility towards the friends. Thank you. We will read from tests from Volume 2, Part 5, from the Inner Light, Item 41, starting from Not Mati in Net, and before that we'll read from test Item 43 in the words of Item 43. After that it returns to being not Mati, not expanding in Ket, and then it is Mati, expanding, and it's also expanding in Bina. Because of the there, because he desires mercy, at that time it is also Mati in. For then descends to his place, and then it is not my in, because ascends with, at that time it is my in it, and light descends into, then it is not Mati in. Since the light of ascends with different, at that time it is Mati in Had. Since then the vessel of Net turns its anterior and gives the 3 lights to Had, at which time Had turns its interior to shines in it. Now let us learn not expanding in. Why not expanding in? Since the light of ascends with, this too is for the above reason that the light of Net is the vac of the 2 of. It is only the posterior, and when does it rise in name, when the light of its interior is not in the degree already. It's thus when the interior of returns to its place, it pulls its be to it. Therefore, as pulled the light of, and Asma pulled herself the zone of Biner. Here too I want to show you that he divides zone of Biner and zone of also into Gal and Vac. When does he say zone of Biner rises in name? When there's not expanding in at the time that there is expanding in, then they come out. As one they dwell, as one then it rises, specifically to, and it does not rise in name, and we learn there we learned for the sake of the children, and here we learn differently, and there we learn differently. What does Ben need, so it desires, and for the sake of what does it change, it's all for the sake of their children, and here it is the opposite, because of its own phase. Gal and Vac. This is a bit of a contradiction. We'll see afterwards. We'll clarify this. Expanding in H, since then the vessel of Net turns its interior. He explains, after the light of which is the Vac rose, the Vac often rose to the interior of the vessels of the which is the G of the Toyn. It thus turns the interior of its vessels which was previously to its posterior. This is because the previous bestow of Gal that was detained in it in the phase of posterior, that there was no HMA now. When it began to defer, it has been inverted now and become the place of bestow as the interior of the vessel of that now controls it over Gar, and furthermore it gives its residue to Net, and in bestowing G to the hen. Now we have found a way to understand the spirit of its origin. Know that this is the axis that all the corrections depend on and revolve around. Its vessel, the vessel of Hod, is the last fifth of the 5 phases, meaning the original vessel of Malat. This is because the 4 previous before correspond to as incorporation, and the 5th meaning the which is opposite. You already know that all those vessels of the 2nd expansion once again are the vessels of the 1st expansion that have been emptied of their lights and passed to Pu. It turns out that the vessel of Hod is phase 4 of the 1st expansion that has been emptied of her lights and did not leave any record for after her. As above, the last phase is lost as above, as it is written in the ARs. Words, however, the light of Hod is not the light of Malhud, but the light of Sari. What is this? The light of Hod is not the light of Malad. If we say Hod is called the vessel of Malat, but the light of Sari meaning what reached her from the residue of Net, when he was connected with the lights of illumination of the G of, moreover, it who is the most important light among the spirit of the perspective of the lights. It is phase of Galen, not Sin himself. Thus he is more important than what is, as from the posterior and fact of the light. It turns out that when shines theirs, only the light of but is from the illumination of the interior, Bath, and connected to the interior of, and from this light came to Hud. For he has illumination of G from this. It's why Hud is called the 5th, since he is the illumination of Gal, that there is in, although it is for as far from the perspective of the vessel which is the greater judgment in the tense. Its core is the light in it reforms him, of course, and its light of the vessel of H is now very sweetened meaning, from the illumination of Gal in it, and examine this carefully, what's written here. He explains to us that the light in is the light of, and the light that was shining in was the light of, that is when had only, then was shining, when had the net connected to, and Hod received from, what it has from the quality of G. It turns out that when I say net, it has only vac. When I say expanding in Hord, it already has G. It turns out also that when I say Hod is the 5th vessel, it is nevertheless still called the 5th. That is because it has the light of in, illumination of. What derives from this, we will see afterwards. Here he explains to us what is this of, from its source. It is Malhut, which Malhut of Saran. Don't forget is Malhut not is the of. Saran has up to don't forget. We only say that is called incorporation. In Malat what is in Zarani. It also has, we'll speak about this afterwards. And he tells us thus, although from the perspective of the vessel it is incorporated from Malu, so one should say it is called the quality of judgment, but it does not have the light of it has the light of, and which light of does it have even more important than shines only. When it does not have only, then rises in name. When does Hod rise in name? After is in then is nullified toward the G of toward, and then H receives. What is the remainder from what it now receives from the G from the? It turns out that the vessel of High says is more important than in this regard. When there was expanding in there was only vac. Now I say expanding in this is bar which G the light of illumination of, since H is the quality of the interior of the of Sari. We learned earlier theirs, so we'll stop here and begin. So we'll start from who turns its interior to then shines in it. You already know that all this light is the extended and expanding and not expanding from Bina on phase 1 in the vessel of Bina to Hud is the light of, in other words, it is the level but emerged on the coarseness of phase 1 that remained after the refinement of Bina, which is phase 2. The whole matter of the difference of expanding and not expanding, this does not pertain to the level at the level of, rather, it is one level coarseness of phase 1. If so, what makes the change there, expanding and not expanding, is primarily through the changes of the illumination of God and the illumination of shines, or without the illumination of God without. However, there was no difference between them in the height or of the level, since they are at the level of phase 1. For example, if we say not expanding in Keter, then phase 4/3 in Keter was refined to phase 3/2. If we say not expanding in, the phase 3/2 of the vessel of HMA was refined, but when we say expanding and not expanding in Santon, this is one quality. One cannot say it was refined from phase 1. Rather, what do we say? That expanding and not expanding. Who is the cause of this? The matter of their Light shines in Gal in the degree that is called expanding and not expanding. That does not shine in the degree, however, not in the height of the level. This is what he says. Since they are the level phase 1 here, the spur turned its interior backward. So he explains, although he had not completed the refinement of phase 1, but only cancelled the phase of the illumination of God in it, which is the anterior, and turned the posterior into the phase of interior. This is already called not expanding in HUD, and expanding in is. However, here we must know, we should not think that in there is a change of phase 1 or not. In truth, he says afterwards, he explains it differently. We'll see in a minute. That is the light of the vessel. There's no longer coarseness of phase 1. Coarseness of phase 1 was refined in the. From there was no refinement from coarseness to phase 1 to coarseness of root. Since we learn that is a narrow and long, it has no what there already no longer the. We'll move to the next part of the lesson, studying among friends. Dear friends, we're going to go into studying among friends led by Moscow 6. Moscow 3. Hello dear friends. World Clay. We Moscow 3 are happy to greet you, and in the preparation of this part of the lesson we chose the topic that through the 10 to wholeness, through the connection in the 10 to adhering to the Creator with the wholeness of the Creator. When we've prepared ourselves, we thought, how could we go through this part of the lesson? So we chose excerpts that we know that are wonderful, that we read many times, but we'd like us to really be able to go into those excerpts with our mind and with our heart, with our feelings, to get into those same states that our teachers described. The work we did before in the 10, especially after the great holiday of Passover and towards our Congress, that each 10 is going to go through, and we're sure we'll be able to connect through these excerpts to those higher states that our teachers are giving us. And for the sake of the intention, let's connect to. Through a short clip, we shouldn't ask the Creator to give us the power to bestow, but only that power which we can receive through the friends, from the friends, that the Creator is in them, and certainly from Him we receive, but only on the condition that we acquire it from the friends. Is that clear? Don't turn to the Creator directly. It's not going to help. That's what religion does, and we see that it only soothes people, calms them down, but doesn't bring them to revelation. Rather, only if we connect to a group through the framework of a group, we receive an addition of the will to bestow, from which we can then assemble. The soul gave us such a direction. So now let's read an excerpt by the Robish from letter 65. We read it many times, and it seems very deep to us. It's only a few sentences, but we can't enter them at once so well. That's why we're going to read it twice. So we'll also read this in the 10 and work on it together. 65. A person must decide that he wants the Creator to give him a desire to completely annul him, meaning not to leave any desire under his own authority, but that all the desires in him will be only to give glory to the Creator. Once he decides on complete annulment, he asks the Creator to help him carry it out. This means that, although in the mind and the desire he sees that the body disagrees with him, annulling all his desires before the Creator, instead for his own sake he should pray to the Creator to help him, want to annul before him all the desires, leaving no desire for himself. This is called a complete prayer. Again, a person must decide that he wants the Creator to give him a desire to completely annul before him, meaning not to leave any desire under his own authority, but that all he desires in him will be only to give glory to the Creator. Once he decides on complete annulment, he asks the Creator to help him carry it out. This means that, although in the mind and desire he sees that the body disagrees with him, annulling all his desires before the Creator, or for his own sake, instead he should pray to the Creator to help him want to annul before him with all the desires, leaving no desire for himself. This is called a complete prayer. And our first task is, well, we'll first read this excerpt again in the tense, and then we write down to ourselves what are the steps Rabash describes in order for us to reach a complete prayer. Again, what are the steps Rabash describes in order for us to reach a complete prayer? 5 minutes. Letter 65. A person must decide that he wants the Creator to give him a desire, to completely kneel before him, meaning not to leave any desire under his own authority, but that all the desires in him will be only to give glory to the Creator. Once he decides on complete annulment, he asks the Creator to help him carry it out. This means that although in the mind and the desire he sees that the body disagrees with him, annulling all his desires before the Creator instead of for his own sake, he should pray to the Creator to help him want to annul before with all the desires, leaving no desire for himself. This is called a complete prayer. It's interesting. He prays to the Creator to give him a desire to nullify before him. That's the request, to have a desire to want to nullify. Yeah, there's a connection to the first lesson. The first step should be that we need to decide in our mind to kneel before the Creator. Afterwards, the heart annuls. Why? Also, he says that the mind and the heart don't want. So if they don't want, where does the mind even come to want? He also doesn't feel that he wants. Where does he get the initial thought at he does want? It starts exactly like that. He says a person must decide, so it's a must. He needs to, that's, or it's a necessity. It's the Korean we were speaking about in the first lesson. We course ourselves on ourselves. We understand that that's the spiritual path. We understand that we are egoistic and that we want to advance towards a spiritual desire. We want the Creator to give us this desire, the desire to kneel before him, to work on us, to correct us. In this way, gradually, we create such a state that we turn to the Creator and pray, and he also corrects us and changes us. That man himself decides that he wants the desire to nullify because we have a goal. We want to nullify before the Creator, to adhere to the Creator, to benefit the Creator, being as he does to bestow. And so we realize we have no other way but the necessity to kneel before the Creator's will versus all the foreign desires in us. That's step 1. Step 2, how do we do it? Then after he decided in his heart, then he understands he has no power where body disagrees, reaching that state, and then he has to raise a prayer, pray to the Creator to help him. So first we have to get to the decision to nullify to the Creator, and secondly, we need the Creator's help to nullify all the desires and keep the one desire towards him. And in order for there to be a complete prayer, there has to be a complete yearning, and that is from the collection of the friend's desires and intentions. The complete prayer can be from the bottom of the heart after we tried on our own, and we saw it's impossible on the one hand. On the other hand, we really want to reach that force of bestow. Only when we have these two things, prayer can come from the bottom of the heart. So our second workshop to continue that excerpt is this: how can we help each other implement these steps right now? How will we help each other implement these steps right now? How to help each other? We have to hear the friends know that what they tell us is very important. The Creator gathered us. The Creator gave us these friends. The Creator opens the mouth of our friends. Then we'll truly feel the help from the friends, from the environment. Yeah, that's a matter of the environment in society. It says envy, lust and honor develops our egoistic desire, and eventually to search for higher desire. As we spoke yesterday, we have to always think and ask the Creator to help us nullify before him and nullify to the friends and help them. And in the 10, if we don't know how to do it, if we're limited, so we're reading a holy text, that's the upper mind that annuls our desires. We spoke about it yesterday and discussed that in the meaning of the light that reforms, that there's a source that is Rob, there's the desire of the friends. We incorporate with that when we don't exactly understand what's going on. But the light that reforms changes gradually our desires, our thoughts, our direction to the Creator. Actually, in the question, there's also an answer. We're reading such an exalted text, annulling our desires, complete prayer. These are states that we can't reach on our own. No chance. Only if we work on it together. Only if we are incorporated from all the friends' desires, then we'll really succeed. We know. Gradually with our prayers we start annulling to our desires towards the Creator, that all of our desires will be for the sake of the Creator. Yes, How will we help each other? Will help in coming together and helping each other. And we're together in the connection between us. Only if there's connection, we can help each other, otherwise we can't. So realizing these steps is in the connection between us in asking to do this together. We have a common goal, and this together creates one. Then one receives the one of the Creator, helping us to give something for the friends, and many times mentions how there's no pleasure without a deficiency, with no appetite. So how can we help each other if there's still no yearning for help, no deficiency for it? So first, we need to awaken a deficiency for help, that appetite. That's why we always have to remind our friends about the goal, how great, how exalted it is, and awaken envy in them to want it as well. We just heard how talks about how the soul breathes with the Creator and each one, and how did King David say that all my bones will testify that together we're entering a feeling of all of reality, no exception, and that can only be together. This lesson, separately, it's not. Yes, everything depends on the vessels. The light builds the clean. We need that to be an attraction for us, and the society gives you the attraction. Forward. Now we will read the second excerpt, where he talks about the wholeness of the 10 and the Creator. It is written, the Lord is one, and Israel are one. Hence they are adhered to the Creator, since it benefits one to cling to one. And when is this? It is when Israel are bundled and attached together in complete unity. At that time they are regarded as one, and the Creator is upon them, for he is one. But when their hearts divided, and they are apart from one another, they cannot be adhered to the one, and the Creator is not on them. Rather, another God is on them. This is implied in the verse, and you who are adhered, meaning when you are adhered and united with each other, you are alive, every one of you. When they are in one unity, then it benefits one to cling to one, and the Creator is upon them. Again from it is written, the Lord is one, and Israel are one. Hence they are adhered to the Creator, since it benefits one to cling to one. And when is this? It is when Israel are bundled and attached together in complete unity. At that time they are regarded as one, and the Creator is upon them, for he is one. But when their hearts divide, and they are apart from one another, they cannot be adhered to one, and the Creator is not on them. Rather, another God is on them. This is implied in the verse, and you who are adhered, meaning when you are adhered and united with each other, you are alive, every one of you. When they are in one unity, then it benefits the one to cling to the one, and the Creator is upon them. Active workshop. Let's now compose a one request to the Creator that we become as one, adhering to the one. Again, active workshop. Let's now compose one request to the Creator that we become one, adhering to the one. First of all, gratitude to the Creator for gathering us here together. So please connect us and let us be in one intention. Please let the friends feel the sparks of the friends' hearts, the sparks of holiness of you. It is a common fire that we have towards the Creator. Help us connect all of our deficiencies and all of our desires to one plea and one prayer, one common desire to adhere to you, and that the prayer will come from the bottom of the heart of each friend and the bottom of the heart of the 10, and it will become a complete prayer, and the complete prayer will rise to the Creator and bring him joy. Help us during the day, on top of all the disturbances, to be connected and adhered to each other, and you to you. Don't let us go. Let us think of the friends more and more, to ask for them, and that will want together to be as one with you. All together, we went through a complete lesson. We were together with all the friends, we as a 10, in a whole collective of 10s, and around the world there are 10s who are in prayer now for a few hours, wanting that our deficiency will work after all, and touch for what needs to be touched, and will do good to the world and good to the Creator, so that he sees that he didn't create creation for no reason, that there is a point to all of his actions, and we want this whole time that went by to bring contentment, as we were speaking in the first lesson, to reach the wholeness of our home, that is our heart, that all of our desires, those 600,000 desires that will become one, the desire towards him. We want to be one so as to serve you in unity, that we will have the forces to hold on to that intention throughout the day, that we will be worthy of being Israel, that we will be worthy for each other, and that we'll ask to be as 110 towards the Creator, and it will always be in a demand from towards Him. And the demand is that we will bestow as you bestow. We want to bestow to you just like you are bestowing to us the good, and no less than that to be adhered to you with a true demand for bestow. That your quality of bestow will soften our hearts and connect our prayers into one and aim us towards a whole prayer, a true prayer, that we will hear that the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. Yes, dear friends, so we've connected. We built a common plea to the Creator. We are sure that He heard our desires, our deficiencies. So let's now add some more efforts and connect all our hearts and enter state of complete wholeness between us. For this we have Rabash's words, and may the Creator lead us towards Him. Abush letter 8. And once I've acquired this above mentioned clothing, sparks of love promptly begin to shine within me. The heart begins to long to unite with my friends, and it seems to me that my eyes see my friends and my ears hear their voices. My mouth speaks to them, my hands embrace and the feet dance in a circle. My love and joy together with them, and I transcend my corporeal boundaries. I forget the vast distance between my friends and me, and the outstretched land for many miles will not stand between us. It is as though my friends are standing right within my heart and see that all is happening there, and I become ashamed of all my petty acts against my friends. Then I simply exit the corporeal vessels, and it seems to me that there's no reality in the world except for me and my friends. After that, even the I is cancelled and is immersed mingled in my friends until I stand and declare that there is no reality in the world, only the friends. Let's connect to this excerpt again to adhere completely to what Rabash writes to us, and then we'll stay in that state for a minute. And once I have acquired the above mentioned clothing, sparks of love promptly begin to shine in me. The heart begins to long to unite with my friends, and it seems to me that my eyes see my friends, my ears hear their voices, my mouth speaks to them, the hands embrace, the feet dance in a circle in love and joy together with them, and I transcend my corporeal boundaries. I forget the vast distance between my friends and me, and the outstretched land for many miles will not stand between us. It's as though my friends are standing right within my heart and see all that is happening there, and I become ashamed of my petty acts against my friends. Then I simply exit the corporeal vessels, and it seems to me that there is no reality in the world except my friends. And after that, even the I is cancelled and is immersed mingled in my friends until I stand and declare that there's no reality in the world, only the friends.